Hey everybody, it's Sean and Trey with Reactions to the Classics. Before we get started today, we just wanted to invite you to take a look at our Patreon page where we have all kinds of reward tiers, anywhere from reacting to an entire album to songs, and to support us for as little as $1 a month. It really helps us out.
And you can also check out our Facebook and Discord groups down below. Got a great community of people who love music. And all that to say, y'all, let's get to today's video. What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad, Sean, and today, Reactions to the Classics. We're going to be throwing it back about a decade and a half or so with Amy Winehouse and her hit album, Back to Black. This comes courtesy of our patron supporter, Josh D, and we appreciate you as always, Josh, always bringing the goods here to the channel. And I knew a song from this, Rehab, but besides that, I wasn't too familiar with anything else on here. We'll get to the quick facts before we go track by track on this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, to follow up on what you said, I didn't know anything from this album. Nothing. So it was all new to me. This was her second, unfortunately, final studio album, released in October of 2006. Went to #1 in the UK. Was actually the best-selling album of 2007 in the UK. Went to #2 in the US, number 451 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time. This album is beloved by critics. Many believe it pushed Adele and Duffy and many others into the mainstream. They're able to do it because Amy paved the way. And at the 50th Annual Grammys, all kinds of awards and nominations, including Record of the Year and Song of the Year for Rehab. She won those. She won Best Pop Vocal Album. She was nominated for Album of the Year. She won Best Artist, and Mark Ronson won for Producer of the Year. She predominantly based this album on her relationship with an ex-boyfriend and future husband, Blake Fielder Civil, who temporarily left her to pursue his previous ex-girlfriend. That never works out well, Trey, but it's fertile ground for songwriting. Their short-lived separation spurred her to create an album that explores themes of guilt, grief, infidelity, and heartbreak in a relationship. The thing that makes this album different is influenced by the pop and soul music of the 1960s girls group. She collaborated with producers Salaam, Remi, and as I already mentioned, Mark Ronson, along with the band the Dap-Kings, to assist her in capturing the sounds from that time period while blending them with contemporary R&B and neo-soul music.
Yeah, in the Dap-Kings, you had the baritone and tenor saxophone. You had the trumpet. Ronson noted that he wanted to get those 60s sounding metallics in there, and this has drawn comparisons to Phil Spector's Wall of Sound because they recorded a lot of the instruments all in the same room, and the drum was recorded with one microphone, and a lot of the instruments kind of spilled and blended in with each other. So definitely a throwback soul R&B type of record here, and then polished in a more modern sounding contemporary format. And we'll just jump right into this with probably the biggest song off of this album, Rehab, where we're starting it off with a bang. As I said, this was the only Amy song I think I was familiar with. It was a top 10 single both in the US and in the UK.
Yeah, and it was actually her only top 10 hit ever in the US. The lyrics are autobiographical and address her refusal to enter a rehab clinic. Kind of obvious. And Rolling Stone has 194 on the 500 greatest songs of all time. Her vocals on this have been compared to Ella Fitzgerald. Just a very powerful song considering how personal it was to her at the time, and unfortunately what happens 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting to know she's pretty self-aware on this song and many others. She knows that her depression is contributing. She also realizes that the drinking isn't going to help her problem really, but she's still doing it. And later down in her life, she did end up going to rehab. It unfortunately, as you mentioned, didn't stick. But this song, I think, is just a great way to open the record because both thematically with the substance abuse and also with the bombastic sound in here.
Yeah, the horns especially were fantastic.
Yeah, the horns, and you had just the slick production all through here. So I thought both musically and lyrically it was a perfect opener.
Yeah, I agree, and her vocals are so powerful on this one. They are on a few songs, really they are on all the songs, but this one you could really feel that she was living this one out. One of the standouts on the album for sure. That's Gonna Take Us To. You Know I'm No Good. It was also a single, went to 18 in the UK. Was remixed, Trey, with guest vocals from the Wu-Tang Clan member Ghostface Killah. And it's about Winehouse cheating on a good man that loves her, and therefore cheating herself out of a healthy relationship. The lyrics also entail her being helpless while trying to understand and resist her own self-destructive compulsion. The horns and drums really drive this song. Not bad for me. I thought lyrically, though, it is awfully mature. That it's self-actualization, right? Just like she had on the first track. She knows that her own behavior is causing her the difficulty in her life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet she can't stop doing it, and that's where people get in real trouble. You realize it, yet you still can't stop.
And here it definitely had the kind of hip-hop drum beat, especially at the start, so I thought that was unique and a little bit different. And it was interesting from her perspective as she was cheating on her guy. They eventually kind of moved past it. He realizes that she's probably still cheating, but he just kind of shrugs. He almost expects it in a way, and I think that hurts her more than anything. So not as good as the opener, but still a solid effort. And then we go on to the third track, Me and Mr. Jones, which I had no idea. I mean, I've heard of this song. I hadn't, I don't think, heard it in full, but I recognize the name. But Mr. Jones is actually Nas, famed New York rapper, one of the most famous rappers of all time. And him and Amy had a good relationship, friendship. And this was an interesting tune because Amy's talking about how she missed out on a Slick Rick concert. Yeah, and the title plays off the 1972 Me and Mrs. Jones by Billy Paul. Winehouse cursed about the relationship between her and Nas in the song's first chorus. What kind of effery is this? You made me miss the Slick Rick gig, as you were talking about, Trey. The Island Records president at the time added the original track was titled, I won't say the word, but effery, from both Remi and Winehouse. He mentioned to him, you can't do this. And Remi was like, yeah, I understand. And Winehouse was like, why not? So, you couldn't call the song that. You could have, but it really would have hurt the commercial appeal of the album itself. I thought this song was pretty good. Yeah, it had a slower, jazzy type feel to it. There was, again, a nod to Nas in that final line. Mr. Destiny, 9 and 14. Amy and Nas both are September 14th birthdays. Yes. And Nas's daughter is called Destiny, so kind of a unique little throw out there. I didn't think the song kind of hit that next level of great for me. I didn't either. I thought the vocals were not quite as good as the first two, and maybe because she didn't feel as strongly about the content. Yeah, that's a decent, I think, observation. And then that'll take us to Just Friends. Here, I again appreciated the female perspective on Amy being in the friend zone here. Yes. Usually you hear that in music from the guy's perspective, being put in the friend zone, but Amy here is kind of hoping that her relationship with this guy she knows can move on to that next level. I thought it was a solid tune. Yeah, I thought instrumentally it was much more chilled, so much different. Little R&B-esque. Yeah, much different presentation than the previous songs. I actually liked it a lot better than the last song, Me and Mr. Jones. That's going to bring us to Back to Black, the title track. Third single went to 8 in the UK. Rolling Stone, number 98 on their list of the 100 best songs of the 2000s. Written by Winehouse and Ronson, was inspired by a relationship with Blake Fielder Civil. He had left her for the ex-girlfriend, and like we talked about, put her in this songwriting mood. It took her to black. Now, if you just listened to it on first listen, didn't know any of her history, you would just think, well, you're depressed, right? So you faded to black in the zone, but it's more likely black is the slang name for heroin, or one of them. So most likely that is what because Amy struggled with that throughout. And when you're in a traumatic event and you have substance abuse problems, where are you going to run to escape? You're probably going to run to that substance. And I especially like the chorus. I thought it packed the punch with few words. She says, we only said goodbye with words. I died 100 times. You go back to her, and I go back to us. I think that was just a really poetic way to kind of contextualize and put forth what a lot of people feel kind of through that breakup, where someone's moved on and you're still hung up. And then that bridge section where it just kind of says back to black type of deal really is a lot more calm compared to the rest of the song. So I thought that contrast worked well for it. Yeah, and I thought they really went for the 1960s girls groups here. I thought her vocals were very powerful. Once again, on my hypothesis of the first two songs, and this one, she's really living this out.
probably this one as much as any of them, just the pain there. So you can really feel it. A definite standout. Now we're up to Love is a Losing Game. It was the final single. George Michael said this was his desert island song. Basically, the lyrical content is just that love is a losing game, just like it sounds like you're not going to come out ahead. Sooner or later, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, and this was interesting. We kind of stripped back some of that wall of sound type of production.
Sounds 60s for sure on
this one. And really just kind of highlights Amy's voice and a softer ballad, a little more prominently guitar lick on this as well. I thought it was a good just way to differentiate. Not one of my favorites per se, but I appreciated it for what it was. Then track 7 is up. We got Tears Dry on Their Own. And here they interpol Marvin Gaye's Ain't No Mountain High Enough.
It's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I thought it was I recognized it obviously right away, and then kind of once the chorus hits, it changes up a little bit here.
It's okay for me. It's interesting to do it the way they did with Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Not a bad song.
Yeah, and again, I like the way Amy approached this because she's having an affair with this guy, and she kind of gets those feelings, and she says that she doesn't have the capacity to walk away. Then the chorus starts saying that he walks away. Themes in here of lost love, sadness, knowing the inevitable is going to happen. I thought the vocals here were definitely stand out. And then we're going to move on to Wake Up Alone, another sentimental type of ballad here that kind of chronicles the time right after a breakup when you're not trying to think of the person by keeping busy.
And it's about keeping busy, but then the main theme of it is at night when you can't keep yourself busy, you lay down, that head starts going, right? You start thinking you can't run from it, and then you got to deal with those things. So that very mature songwriting on this one, really on the whole album, but I really like the lyricism.
I thought the imagery was pretty vivid here as well, the way she's describing, her former lover, and mentions that, hey, at least I'm not drinking whenever she's going out. So we kind of get a thematic thread there with the drinking and substances, and a little more prominent piano here. And then we're going to keep on trucking to Some Unholy War. This one really kind of gets to the heart of her relationship with Blake. Because she heard the, because this is around the time the war in Afghanistan was obviously really heating up, called an holy war. She thought, what if I could flip that into being in a romantic sense? So Blake struggled with substance abuse, self-harm, and she kind of acknowledges that in here, that she's going to be standing beside him through some unholy war like this. One of the few, I think, tracks that deals with a relationship kind of working in a sense.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I like the lyrics to this song a lot. I don't necessarily care for the song itself, but it was an interesting way to approach this particular subject. That's going to take us to He Can Only Hold Her. This has My Girl, She's a Fox by the brothers Robert and Richard Poindexter playing, interpolating with that. I like the instrumentation, the vibe, much more than the past few, and the drums on this more than any other song on this album particularly stand out.
Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite three tracks on the record. A very danceable type of beat to it.
Different.
She has a great one-liner in there saying, now how can he have her heart if it got stole? I saw it wasn't a big single or anything.
I was surprised by that because there are 5 singles. I'm surprised this wasn't one of them.
Yeah, because I think this fits the T to what a great kind of pop type of single for the masses would be. I loved it. And then we finished with Addicted.
Yes.
It was a bonus track kind of in the U.S. Here, she kind of does a little more cheeky manner, talking about how her girlfriend's boyfriend keeps stealing her weed, and that, Amy, she's saying that she's got to go burn one up, kind of contrasting the fact that her friend has a boyfriend and a love and this and that, and Amy's love at this point in time is weed. So
it's weed, yeah. And for me, it was a middle of the road track. It wasn't bad at all, which takes us to our favorite tracks. I'm going to be with Rehab, Back to Black, and He Can Only Hold Her.
Man, it's funny whenever we don't talk about this,
because we haven't talked about this at all.
Those are the 3 that I wrote down for myself, and I guess we can go now to the overall score of the record. I can see why people really enjoy this. I can see the influences for later artists kind of in this genre.
Yeah, I can too.
For sure, some Adele-like features, or more like Adele has some Amy-like features in her music, and it's a pretty easy listen, only 11 tracks, about 30 4 minutes, in that range. Lots of just short, sweet, to the point songs, but they're mature and they get their point across. I really dug this one, Josh. Thanks for suggesting it.
Yeah, Josh, thank you.
I'm going in 8.5.
Yeah, for me, the only part of this that we discussed, as I told you, I listened to it before you did. I told you it's really good. I understand what it is instrumentally. Understand what she is vocally. This is just not my kind of music.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Nothing wrong with it. But in reviewing it, I can be objective about it. It's an 8.25. It's a wonderful album. It's tremendously put together. Fantastic production.
Yeah, I thought Ronson did great on that.
Yeah, songwriting, perfect, because she made it personal. And so many artists don't ever do that. So kudos that she did that. It's so unfortunate that we don't know what would have happened next. There was never another album. She didn't pass away for 5 more years, but there was never another album. Like I said, just being transparent and honest, it's just not my kind of music that I really care for, but it's fantastically done. So I'm glad I listened to it. I never heard it before, so thanks again, Josh.
Yeah, and let us know what you think of Back to Black down in the comment section below, y'all. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up. That helps us out, as well as hit subscribe if you haven't already. We upload every single day, so there's something for everybody here at the channel. As always, Dad, appreciate the research. Love getting the backstories. And until next time, y'all, thank you for watching, happy listening, and we will see ya.